Hey, impressive chessers! Have you ever played a game that felt absolutely amazing? Maybe you sacrificed your queen for a checkmate. Maybe you found a brilliant tactical sequence. Maybe you beat a stronger player. And afterward, you walked away thinking, wow, that is how chess is supposed to be played. But what if I told you that this exact thing happened to me, where one of my best wins actually hurt my chess for years afterward? Now, before we jump in, there's another reason we're looking at this particular game today. Today is my birthday. And since I'm officially another year older and hopefully a little wiser, I thought it would be fun to revisit my favorite tournament game of all time. This game has everything I love about chess: strategy, calculation, tension, high stakes, and a lesson that took me years to fully understand. It's also the game that qualified me for an International Master Norm tournament. So today we're going to go through the game, talk about why it's still my favorite, and discuss the hidden lesson that almost nobody talks about. Because sometimes your biggest victories teach you the wrong lesson. All right, before we jump in though, if you're interested in improving your chess without falling into the same traps as I did, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and let me know in the comments what your favorite tournament game is. Now let's get to it. All right, this game starts out. My opponent is a FIDE Master. That's what FM stands for. And I'm National Master Craig Clawwater. They started with my favorite move when I'm white. E4 opens the door. And back then, I played the trusty French defense. All right, they played D4, D5, E5, which is called the advanced variation, which is a very closed system here. So the correct way to handle closed systems is to use your pawns to attack. All right, they use their pawns to defend. I put a bunch of pressure on their d4 pawn, but they have also a bunch of defenders. So add another one. Look at this. Got all these guys hitting there, but it's still not enough, actually. They've got 3 defenders. And they ironically play one of my favorite moves when I'm on the white side of this variation. As you can see, this is decent for both white and black, and many strong players have played both sides of this position. I'm going to jump out with the knight. One of the downsides of the French is, so the biggest downside is actually your bishop right here is pretty crummy. There you go. So that's the biggest downside of the French defense, is that French bishop, as it's called. The other one is a lot of times they get a pawn here, not letting your knight come to its favorite square. So you have to get a little creative with that knight, and that's what I do here. So they play the main move. These are all super common moves. They've all been played tons and tons of times. Bishop comes out. They kick my knights. My knight runs away. It runs away while attacking too. That's kind of cool. And again, closed positions. It's still a very closed position, especially the center. So we still want to use our pawns to attack back. Do not play like this in an open position. You will get checkmated very fast, or something bad will happen to you. All right, take. Knight jumps back. And all right. So white plays totally normal move. It's actually kind of cool if you look on chess.com and the Explorer. My game is actually the game that pops up on the top of the list, at least for me. Maybe it's biased towards me, but you will definitely be able to see it there. And in this position, I played castles, totally normal move. And I was really hoping that white would not see that I have a disguised threat here. So I was hoping they would play a move like rook to c1. If they do that, go ahead and pause your videos and try to figure out what I was planning to play here. All right, hopefully you noticed that the rook and the queen are aimed at that f2 pawn, which allows black to sacrifice the knight. So if they were to take it with the bishop, let's say, we take back again. They cannot take that knight, and they couldn't take it with the knight last move either. Because if they do, mate, boom, that's guarded right there, and the queen does the rest. Ouch. All right, that is not what a FIDE Master would normally fall for, and they did not. They said, okay, Craig's setting this trap. Let me just get castled and guard my pawn with the rook. All right, so they castle, and crazily enough, I spent 55 minutes on this one move. For context, the time control was 90 minutes with 30-second increment, which means you get 30 seconds added back to your clock after every move. And after I had this 55-minute think, I only had 25 minutes left in the clock for the next 24 moves. My opponents had 70 minutes on the clock. So, yes, I basically spent an entire Netflix episode thinking about one move. I'm going to have you guys go ahead and pause your videos and see if you can spot the move that took me 55 minutes to play. All right, hopefully you guys said a5, which gets nice counterplay on this pawn. And looks very natural. So you guys are probably thinking, why did Craig take 55 minutes to play this nice counterattacking move? Seems pretty obvious. So the move I was afraid of was the move that my opponent actually played, which was b5. And this was actually the harder move to see here. So for instance, if I played a move like knight a7, see that score jump up for white. White would just simply guard their pawn. I would have to reroute my knight, and boom. And white is just taking over the board. This is not good for black. All right, so in this position, try to figure out what I was intending to play, and I did play because this actually happened in the game. So I was not going to retreat. I was ready to counterattack with a4, hitting that knight. Now it seems like this doesn't work because they take there. And they're also attacking another piece. So if I was to blunder here with this, they would get 2 pieces for the price of 1. That wouldn't work. But that was not what I was planning. I was planning to take it with the pawn, and that's what I did. So now I got these pawns running down the board. By the way, notice that knight on b3 that's already having pressure on it, PP on the PP, is pinned. So yeah, if that knight moves, I'm going to snap up that bishop. All right, so they played the move that I was actually expecting. They sacrificed their bishop, because don't forget, they're up a piece, so it's okay to give back a piece. And now they play queen to c2. I was actually expecting them to play queen to d3 check. I would move somewhere with my king. They would now move their knight. What I probably missed was they had to sacrifice a whole piece to do this, so I'm not down any material. I can just play a simple move like c5, or I can get to this position, then start to think about whether I can take that bishop. So I was afraid to take the bishop, by the way, because at first I was like, oh no, my queen is trapped actually. Has nowhere to go sideways, diagonal, everything is covered. So, what do you guys think I had in plan here? I was going to take the pawn, which also counterattacks the queen. And so, yeah, if they take my queen, I just take their queen right back and hit them. And black is in major business there. They take my knight, though. Now my queen escapes with a nice check. I'm up 2 points of material. It actually turns out that I can even counterattack again. So yeah, this is a very pleasant position for black. All right, so that is not what happened. That line, though, was one of the main reasons why it took me 55 minutes to play that A5 move. All right, take there. The real game, they went queen to c2 check, which makes sense. It guards the bishops, and now the knight is free to move, which they do. And now I get my pawns rolling. So even though it's even material, my pieces are so much better than theirs. Now, hopefully, you guys would play this, which pins down this bishop. By the way, when I moved my king, I actually should have moved here because now they have a kind of nasty threat of knight to f4, knight to g6 check. So it would have been a little bit more precise to play my king to g8. Which honestly makes more sense. I'm kind of surprised I played king to h8 because now I'm on an open file. But anyways, I can play queen to b3, hitting their queen, and if they take my queen, this is going to be a whole big problem. So for instance, if they move this knight, then my other rook comes over here, seriously pins down that bishop, and is just going to win the bishop, actually. They don't move that knight. They move like this knight to guard it. Well, now I can kick them. They'll move their knight somewhere, like maybe here. I can just retreat my rook somewhere. Next up is this rook comes over. And again, serious problems going down the b file. All right. So they run away. I, again, pin that knight. Right there. So not allowing it to come in and check me. I was also had two attackers. They only had one defender. So they bring over another defender to guard their knights. And here I played an unnecessary move, but kind of a cool move. I go c4, and I think my opponent might have been a little shocked by this move because they played knight to c1, which again looks like it traps my queen. But I actually have two ways out of this. One is better than the other, and I played the better one. So what do you guys think? How do I counterattack to get out of this trapped queen situation? So, yep. c3 hits the queen. So if they were to take my queen, I could just simply take them right back. I'm hitting like everything here. Wow, look at that. They are in huge trouble. So they should not do that. They're in a lot of trouble here no matter what, really. But they decided to go here, keep the queens on the board, which makes sense. And now it's the best move anyways, but what is the simplest way to get out of white's threats? So right now white is actually threatening to take that pawn. They're also threatening to take my queen. So hopefully you guys said move the queen out of danger from the knight. And also I'm attacking that. I'm also attacking that. They are not going to be able to meet all the threats. They decide to attack my queen. I think they got kind of desperate there. I just take their piece, they take their, and kind of a instructive move here is actually the final move because my opponent resigned after this move. Is I just brought my queen back, guarded my pawn, and about 4 points of material. So that should be enough to easily win the game from here. All right. So the crazy part was The 55-minute thing worked. The game worked. I won. I qualified for the I Am Norm tournament. I actually got pretty close to getting my first and only to date I Am Norm. So, yeah, everything turned out great. But that's exactly why it became a problem. Because our brains are terrible at separating good results from good decisions. So the lesson I learned from this game was not, hey, maybe you should be more careful about your time management. I learned, hey, Craig, remember when you spent 55 minutes on that move and won an amazing game? You should totally do that again. And so I did, over and over and over again. And every critical position became a candidate for a marathon think. Every complicated position became an opportunity to chase that same feeling I got from this game. I wanted to recreate the magic. So what's the problem with that? The magic usually wasn't there. Many of those deeply calculated lines never appeared on the board. Sometimes I made mistakes in my calculations. Sometimes I was right, but I had no time left for the rest of the game. Sometimes I reached winning positions and couldn't convert them because I was exhausted. And sometimes I simply lost. The strategy that looked brilliant in one game was actually costing me points in many others. So what's the real lesson? Don't blindly copy your successes. Study them, question them, understand why they worked. Sometimes a great result comes from a great decision. And sometimes a great result comes despite a questionable process. My I Am Norm qualifier was one of the most important wins of my career, but the valuable lesson wasn't the move I spent 55 minutes calculating. It was learning that I shouldn't spend 55 minutes calculating every critical position afterward. As I look back on this game today, on my birthday, what I appreciate most isn't the win itself, it's the lesson that came afterwards. Chess improvement isn't just about learning from your losses. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from your biggest successes. And this game is a perfect example of that. Let me know in the comments what's a habit you've picked up after a big win that later turned out to be a mistake. And if you'd like help improving your calculation, decision making, time management, etc., check out the links below to book a lesson with me. Thanks for watching, and thanks for spending part of my birthday with me. I'll see you next time, Impressive Chessers. Stay impressive. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you can, share with a friend.